The United States government is watching you watch this review. Fun fact. Before we go on, I just gotta say that I am tired as balls tonight, so I'm gonna do my best to do this review in as close to a one-shot as we possibly can. So, Snowden is the biopic of pretty much legendary whistleblower Edward Snowden, arguably the most notorious whistleblower in the history of the United States, certainly in recent history. If you don't remember, back in 2013, Snowden blew the lid off of the NSA's illegal spying program that pretty much was watching every American, or at least had the access to do so, and collecting every bit of data on them for whatever the hell. As for the movie itself, it has a pretty decent amount of interesting subject matter. It's just not necessarily presented in the most interesting way. And there's a couple kind of tropes that they seem to go back to a little bit too repeatedly, most notably in the sense of Edward Snowden, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I thought did a fine job, but he's maybe questioning things or wondering where his place is in this professional world and gets this motivational speech from an authority figure or a superior of his. It was really reminiscent to me of kind of the motivational speech given to James Kirk in the Star Trek reboot by Captain Pike. The problem is that they did this like 4 times throughout the movie. They also kind of did the same thing where if there was some kind of conflict or confrontation or argument, it was let's have Edward Snowden get in an argument with his girlfriend. I think it was literally 4 times they went back to that, and I think the whole relationship argument aspect of a movie, you can't dip your foot in those waters more than once in a movie, otherwise it's just annoying and it's kind of overkill. I did feel that they did an okay job of sort of detailing what it was and what these programs did that the NSA and the CIA were using to collect all this data on people and sort of what they were capable of. There was one scene in particular where you kind of really get a glimpse as to the overall scale of things, and I thought they should have gone back to that a little bit more to detail sort of the evolution of that. I thought they did a decent job of showing that evolution, but they should have gone more into detail with it all, especially with a 2-hour and 18-minute runtime, which, by the way, that length of a runtime needed to calm its shit in regards to this movie, because I feel like they could have crammed everything they needed to and been a whole lot more interesting in an hour and 45 minutes. And I think had this movie been directed by somebody like Aaron Sorkin, who's very good at writing kind of quick, witty dialogue, I know that might not necessarily be applicable to somebody like Edward Snowden, who's kind of very calm and soft-spoken, but with all the characters surrounding him, that could have been a huge benefit to sort of telling the story and keeping viewers engaged. As it was, that 2-hour and 18-minute runtime was too much, and there's just not enough going on to really kind of keep you engaged, because there's literally not a single thing about this movie that could be qualified as even somewhat intense. Now, I do have to say that there was one scene in particular where I thought the acting was absolutely phenomenal, and that was in regards to Zachary Quinto's character, who played one of the journalists that broke this story. There's a scene that he completely takes over that you're just like, yeah, dude, you tell it how it is. It got me seriously pumped and was probably my favorite part of the movie. I wouldn't say that on the whole, Snowden is necessarily a bad movie. It does a handful of things right. It kind of tells the story of how this all went down and how it progressed. I think in a lot of ways it focuses too much on Edward Snowden's personal life though, whereas the overall legacy is sort of in regards to the programs that he blew the lid off of and that he also somewhat helped create. I think they needed to go more in depth with those and make those the focus of everything rather than focusing too hard on Snowden's personal life, health issues, things with his girlfriend, and that was, in my opinion, probably the biggest misstep. When I first left the theater, my impression of it was that I would maybe give it like a 56 on Rotten Tomatoes. By the time I got home, I was like, you know what, that's like a 41. I had that kind of a swing, and I think it's rocking somewhere in the 50s. So apparently my initial reaction was more on point. It's certainly not a bad movie. I think it's worth seeing. It's a matinee price type of movie though in my book. You'll learn a lot, and especially if you remember this kind of piece of history, it's that much more applicable. So anyway, this was always going to be a little bit jumbled of a review. I just kind of wanted to rant a little bit and give my thoughts on this movie, but I would be curious to know what other people thought about this movie, and for people that have maybe studied the actual history of how this whole situation went down, I would be eager to know how accurate the movie was, because because I'm just kind of too lazy to do my homework in regards to that all. So if you have any thoughts on the movie or thoughts on the whole actual history and the accuracy of the movie, please let me hear about it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like button. You know I always appreciate that, because leaving a like button, it's like it's late and I'm tired or something. And if you want more videos like this one, please subscribe. You know I'd appreciate that, and I'd love to have you here. But above all else, everybody, thanks so much for watching.